Welcome in, everybody. Ready for a deep dive into something pretty fascinating. It's all about the butterfly effect, but not the chaos theory well, sort of.
Yeah, it's like chaos theory, but applied to work, right?
Yeah.
How small choices can snowball into huge impacts on, like, the whole work culture.
Exactly. And to guide us through this, we've got the wisdom of Marynês Pereira, a neurobusiness expert with, what is it, like 40 years of
I think over
experience?
40, yeah. And what I find really interesting is how she doesn't go for those huge, sweeping changes. It's all about those tiny, everyday actions.
Oh, so it's not like restructure the entire company kind of stuff. It's more about how we interact with each other day to day.
Exactly. Pereira calls these consistent actions, and they're like the bedrock for a truly healthy work environment.
Consistent actions, huh? Okay, I'm hooked already. So where do we even begin with building this foundation of positive actions?
Well, a big one, and it might seem obvious, is reciprocity.
Reciprocity, like you scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Kinda. But Pereira takes it deeper than just that simple exchange.
Deeper.
It's not just about waiting for someone to do something for you so you can repay the debt, right? It's about actively looking for ways to be helpful and supportive.
So it's like being proactively helpful. Always looking out for ways to contribute, not just keeping score.
Exactly. It creates this environment where everyone feels empowered to give and receive help freely, no strings attached.
I can see how that would lead to a much more, collaborative and positive atmosphere. No one's keeping tabs. It's just about supporting each other.
And that shared responsibility is actually key to another consistent action that Pereira talks about, which is mentorship.
Ah, mentorship. Everyone remembers being the newbie at work, totally lost, right? A mentor can be such a lifeline in those early days.
For sure. But Pereira highlights how it's a two-way street, actually.
Two-way. You mean it's not just the mentee who benefits?
Nope, the mentor gets a lot out of it, too. Like, think about it. When you explain something to someone, don't you understand it better yourself?
Yeah, it's like teaching is the best way to learn, right? You really have to know your stuff to explain it clearly.
Exactly. And watching your mentee grow, succeed, that's incredibly rewarding.
So mentorship strengthens bonds, spreads knowledge, creates a more supportive environment, win-win all around. But speaking of growth, what about feedback? That can be tricky.
Oh, definitely. Giving and receiving feedback can be a minefield.
Yeah, we've all had those experiences where feedback felt more like an attack than, helpful advice.
Pereira uses this great analogy. Constructive criticism is like a mirror. It helps you see yourself clearly, identify areas for improvement.
Okay, I like that.
Whereas destructive criticism, it's like a wall, blocks progress, and makes you feel demoralized.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it, right? Focus on specific actions, be supportive, offer solutions.
Exactly. She sees feedback, when done right, as one of the most powerful tools for growth, both personally and professionally.
It's like reframing feedback as a gift, right? Someone's taking the time to help you develop.
That's a great perspective. And remember, it's a two-way street. Being open to receiving feedback, even when it's tough, is crucial.
That's hard, though. Sometimes our ego gets in the way, right? We take it personally instead of seeing it as a chance to learn.
It's human nature, but Pereira encourages us to, challenge that defensiveness and be more open to what we can learn.
So a feedback culture needs both sides to be, growth-oriented?
Yeah.
Seeing feedback as improvement, not judgment.
Absolutely. And alongside feedback, there's another element Pereira highlights: recognition. We all crave that feeling of being seen and appreciated.
Oh, for sure. It's like, hey, someone noticed. My work matters.
Super validating, right?
And even small gestures of recognition, like a sincere thank you, a public acknowledgement, can have a huge impact on morale.
It's not just about making people feel good. It actually boosts productivity and commitment.
Exactly. Pereira's research backs that up.
So recognition isn't just fluffy stuff. It actually helps the whole workplace thrive.
And along those lines, another important consistent action is taking responsibility.
Owning up to our mistakes, that can be tough.
It is, but Pereira argues that it's a sign of strength, not weakness. It's so easy to try and cover up mistakes, blame someone else, but that just creates a culture of fear and mistrust.
Exactly. By owning up, we build credibility and show that we're accountable, which sets a positive example.
And it shapes the mindset, right? Mistakes become opportunities to learn and grow, not something to be terrified of.
Absolutely. It fosters transparency and honesty, which is essential for a healthy workplace.
Which leads us to another one of Pereira's biggies, collaboration.
She's a huge believer in the power of teamwork. We can achieve far more together, she says, than we ever could alone.
So recognizing that we're all in this together, Individual success is tied to the team's success.
Exactly. Valuing everyone's contributions, communicating openly, working towards shared goals, it all creates this amazing synergy.
Like the whole is greater than the sum of its
But
parts, right?
and in that kind of environment, everyone feels ownership and pride in what they accomplish together.
Now, Pereira also gets into the importance of ethics, which can be a bit of a touchy subject.
It can be, yeah.
It's easy to fall into gossip, office politics, especially in competitive environments.
Pereira doesn't shy away from that. She's very clear that those behaviors are harmful, they erode trust and morale.
So it's not just about being nice, it's about building a foundation of integrity where everyone feels safe and respected.
Exactly. And that foundation is crucial for psychological safety, which allows people to be creative, innovative, and honestly, just feel better at work.
It's about feeling comfortable speaking up, sharing ideas, taking risks without fear of judgment or repercussion.
Exactly. And that openness leads to better communication, decision-making, problem-solving, all the good stuff.
So ethics isn't just some abstract moral code, it's a practical necessity for a high-performing workplace. And it seems like all of this ties into what Pereira calls genuine respect.
It's like the overarching principle, right?
Yep.
It's about going beyond just professionalism. It's about truly valuing and understanding our colleagues as human beings.
And that seems like a pretty good place to pause for part 1 of our deep dive. Lots to think about already.
Definitely. Join us for part 2, where we'll explore this idea of genuine respect a little bit further. As we go deeper into Pereira's work, what really strikes me is how she links these consistent actions to this broader idea of genuine respect.
Yeah, it's not enough to just go through the motions of being nice or helpful, right? There has to be this underlying attitude of respect.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that each person has inherent worth, dignity, regardless of their job title or whatever.
So it's deeper than just professionalism. It's about human connection, valuing people as people.
And Carrera is adamant that empathy is key to cultivating that kind of respect.
Empathy, huh? Putting yourself in someone else's shoes, that's something I've been trying to get better at. Not always easy.
It's tough, especially when you're faced with opinions that are totally different from your own. But Pereira calls empathy this superpower, that lets you bridge those gaps.
It's like that saying, everyone's fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind. Always.
Exactly. We never really know what someone else is going through. So approaching them with empathy, that creates space for understanding, even when you disagree.
And that understanding can, de-escalate conflicts, help you find common ground, build stronger relationships.
Absolutely. And a really practical way to practice empathy is through active listening, something Pereira talks about a lot.
Active listening, we touched on it before, but worth exploring further. What are some of the key elements she highlights?
Well, the first thing is being present in the conversation.
Yeah.
Really present, putting your phone away, quieting your own thoughts, focusing on the other person.
So it's not just hearing the words, it's paying attention to their tone, body language, all those subtle cues, right?
Yeah, and it's fighting that urge to jump in with your own opinion before they've even finished talking.
Oh, I do that all the time. I get so excited to share my thoughts. I end up interrupting or finishing their sentences.
It's a common trap. But active listening shows the other person that you value what they have to say, even if you don't agree with them.
Which builds trust, right? Creates a space for honest communication.
For sure. It deepens understanding, helps you navigate those tough conversations more smoothly.
Now, alongside empathy and active listening, Pereira also mentions availability.
Right. Being willing to help colleagues when they're struggling, even if it's not strictly part of your job description.
That can be a tough one, especially these days when everyone's so busy and stressed.
I get it, but Pereira's point is that even small acts of help can make a huge difference.
So it's not about dropping everything and spending hours fixing someone else's problem. It's more about those small moments of support, maybe offering advice or just listening.
Exactly. Could be brainstorming solutions, sharing a resource, just checking in and seeing how they're doing.
And I think it ties back to that reciprocity idea, right? If everyone's willing to help each other out, it creates a more supportive environment overall.
Leads to a more collaborative workplace, for sure.
Yeah.
And that brings us to another crucial aspect of genuine respect, embracing diversity.
Diversity, such a buzzword these days, but it's so important, especially as workplaces become more global and interconnected.
And Pereira sees diversity as a strength, not a weakness.
It's about recognizing that everyone brings something unique to the table, different experiences, skills, ways of thinking.
Exactly. And that mix of perspectives makes the workplace more dynamic, innovative, creative.
It's like that saying, if everyone is thinking alike, then someone isn't thinking.
Love that. And Pereira emphasizes that diversity goes beyond just race, gender, or ethnicity.
Oh, so it's more than just ticking boxes on a form. It's about valuing differences in age, religion, personality, even work style.
Exactly. Creating an inclusive environment where everyone feels welcome and respected for who they are.
But that requires us to confront our own biases, right? Even those unconscious ones we might not even realize we have.
Absolutely. It's about being aware of those biases and actively working to overcome them.
And creating a space where people feel safe to speak their minds, even if their views are different from the norm.
That's how you get those fresh ideas and innovative solutions.
So embracing diversity is not just about tolerating differences, it's about actively seeking them out and valuing what they bring to the table.
That's when the real magic happens. Now, Pereira also talks about something that might seem simple, but it's often overlooked. Cordiality.
Cordiality, huh? Just being polite, right? But I guess it's more than that.
It's about treating everyone with respect and kindness, regardless of their position or status.
Those little things, saying good morning, smiling, a genuine thank you, they can really make a difference.
Carrera argues that cordiality sets the tone for positive interactions, makes people feel more comfortable communicating and collaborating.
It's like creating a foundation of respect that allows for more open and productive interactions.
Exactly. And as we're talking about all these elements of genuine respect, it strikes me how interconnected they are.
Yeah, they all kind of build on each other, don't they? Empathy leads to active listening, which makes you more available to help others and so on.
It's like a virtuous cycle. And embracing diversity and practicing cordiality, well, those just create a more welcoming and inclusive environment for everyone.
Pereira's really giving us a roadmap for a workplace that's not just productive, but also fulfilling and, well, just plain nice to be in.
And she reminds us that we all have a role to play in creating that kind of workplace.
It's not just up to the bosses or HR, it's about individual choices, those everyday actions that can make a big difference.
Which brings us back to the butterfly effect, right? Small actions, ripple effects, big changes.
That's a perfect segue to part 3. We've talked about the principles, but how do we actually put this stuff into practice?
Join us for part 3, where we'll delve into the practical side of Pereira's insights.
All right, back for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground with Pereira's ideas on consistent actions and genuine respect.
But now comes the tricky part, right?
Yeah.
How do we actually put all this into practice in our daily work lives?
It's one thing to understand the concepts, but actually changing our behavior. That's where the real challenge lies.
And Pereira gets that. She emphasizes that it's a process. It's about cultivating new habits, being mindful, constantly checking ourselves.
So it's not like flipping a switch. It's more like tending a garden. You got to nurture those positive behaviors over time.
Exactly. And she has some great practical advice, like start small. Don't try to change everything at once. It can feel overwhelming.
That's a relief. It's easy to get discouraged when you think about changing, deeply ingrained habits.
So focus on small, incremental steps. Maybe this week you concentrate on active listening, really trying to understand different perspectives in meetings.
Okay, I can do that. And then maybe next week, I focus on expressing gratitude more often, like little things, but consistent.
That's the key, consistency. Those small changes, over time, they build momentum. You start seeing the positive impact, and it motivates you to keep going.
It's like that butterfly effect in action, right? One small flap can have a ripple effect throughout the whole system.
Speaking of systems, though, what about those, let's face it, less than ideal workplaces? What if you're dealing with difficult colleagues or a toxic environment?
Yeah, not every workplace is a dream, right? How do Pereira's ideas apply in those situations where negativity seems to be the norm?
Well, Pereira emphasizes that even in tough environments, we still have choices. We can't control how others act, but we can control our own responses.
So it's about setting boundaries, not getting sucked into the drama, focusing on what you can influence.
Exactly. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just refuse to participate in the negativity. Model that positive behavior. You might even inspire others.
It's like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see. Right?
Yeah. And even if you can't single-handedly transform a toxic workplace, you can create a little pocket of positivity around yourself, which can make a difference.
But what if it's more serious than just negativity, like harassment or discrimination? Pereira acknowledges that sometimes you need to, escalate the issue.
Absolutely. This isn't about tolerating abuse. It's about creating a positive environment. That requires safety and respect. If those are being violated, you have to take action.
So it's about knowing when to create that positive ripple and when to, well, use your wings to fly away from a harmful situation.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
And ultimately, I think the most important takeaway from Pereira is that we have agency, we're not helpless, we can shape our workplaces, even if it's just one small action at a time.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, and even those tiny choices we make can have a ripple effect that spreads outwards.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I'd like to leave you with a question. What one small action will you take this week to make your work life and the lives of those around you a little bit better?
Will it be actively listening in a meeting? Expressing gratitude to a colleague? Offering a helping hand? Whatever it is, remember that, like the butterfly, you have the power to create positive change. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the butterfly effect at work.